Hello, Patriots, and welcome to the channel once again. It's Friday, and every Kentuckian knows what that means. It means you've survived another week under the tyrannical dictator of Andy Beshear. But on a happier note, it also means there's a new video from Patriot Point. And on today's video, we're going to be going over Kentucky in Jeopardy. Remember that old game Jeopardy on television? Well, let's have a little fun with that today, talking about Kentucky in Jeopardy. Today's categories are Get Out of Dodge, Mail-In Mess, Amazing Cures, By the Numbers, Here Comes the Judge, and Pronoun Problem. Let's get started by the category. Alex, I will take Getting Out of Dodge for 400. Well, the answer is this nationwide company is moving out of Kentucky to a state without a mask mandate. If you answered, what is Papa John's, you are correct.
Well, we're moving on now, to the east side.
Yes, Papa John's is moving its national headquarters out of Kentucky. More than 1,200 jobs going over to Georgia, a state that doesn't have a mask mandate. I guess they want to be able to breathe free, to smell in the better ingredients and the better pizza. Let's look at our next category. Alex, I will take mail-in mess for 800, please. Well, the answer in mail-in mess is this number is how many ballots were not counted in the 2020 Kentucky primary. If you answered, what is more than 15,000, then you are correct. You see here an article from the Courier-Journal, and I have a link to this article in the video description so you can click and read the article yourself, that more than 15,000 ballots were rejected, and that's just between the cities of Louisville and Lexington in this most recent primary election in June of this year. And if you read the article, be like, well, the people didn't fold it correctly, or they didn't sign in both places, or somehow they filled it out wrong. So all these people thought that they voted, but there were more than 15,000 Kentuckians who thought they voted, took the effort to mail it in, and their vote did not count at all. Do you remember how many votes separated Governor Bevin from Governor Beshear in last year's election? It was about 5,000. Well, there's a little bit more than 3 times that number that has been thrown out because of the mail-in mess. So I encourage everybody, please vote this year in November. Super important, as is being emphasized everywhere appropriately so. Super important. Do it in person. You can do early voting. You can do it that day so you know that your vote is actually going to get counted instead of being disqualified or lost in the mail or delivered too late, or we wind up reading about one of these articles where it winds up in Vermont or some other state in the middle of next year. Let's go vote in person, and so we won't have such a big mail-in mess. Well, let's go to our next category. Our next category is Amazing Cures. The answer is this is how many people have died of the regular flu and pneumonia in Kentucky this year. And the question is, what is none? Yes, I mean, obviously none. Now, don't get this confused with none. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about none, as in zero. I mean, obviously, Andy Beshear has found the cure for the regular the regular pneumonia and the regular flu, because nobody has that anymore. I mean, everything, if you've got the flu symptoms or you catch pneumonia, they're like, oh, it's COVID-19. I guess we don't have anybody who dies of the regular flu anymore, though that's what used to happen in Kentucky. According to the CDC, in 2018, they don't have the 2019 numbers in yet, the 2018, we had 968 deaths in Kentucky from the regular flu, that's influenza, and pneumonia. Do you realize that would account for almost all of the Kentucky deaths of COVID-19? But I guess we have found an amazing cure for pneumonia, an amazing cure for the regular flu, because nobody seems to have that anymore. even though it kills about 1,000 Kentuckians every single year, which would account for nearly all of the COVID deaths this year from flu and pneumonia. Well, let's go on to our next category. Our next category is by the numbers. Oh, how I love to crunch some numbers for you. So the answer is, this is the average number of days COVID symptoms last. And the question would be, what is 14? So, hey, 14, so 2 weeks. Now, some people, they catch it and they have a little shorter amount of times that they have symptoms. Some people catch it and it goes a little bit longer for them. But the average number of days that someone has symptoms is 14 days. Now, when you think about that, let's go on. I like to do a bonus question on crunching the numbers because this is my favorite category, by the numbers. So our next answer is, this is the average number of days COVID-19 is contagious. And the answer is, what is 10? You realize it's only contagious, and this is according to the CDC. I will put another link that you can get right in the video's description where you can read it for yourself. 10 days. Andy Beshear is telling you that we have 70 or 80,000 cases in Kentucky. He has lied to your face because remember, the symptoms last for 2 weeks, but you're only contagious for 10 days. So if we look here, the last 10 days in September, add all the numbers of cases, that would be 7,298. Nowhere near the 70,000 plus cases that Andy Beshear is saying that we actually have. So let's think about that. If you have 7,298 cases, that means in Kentucky, 99.9489% of people do not have it, or if they do have it, they are no longer contagious with it. 99.9489%. When you think about that, it makes all of this craziness where people are afraid to go out. They have to suck in CO2 and carbon dioxide all day because of this thing. And I've had people that'll get on the other side of the sidewalk because I would dare walk down the street without a mask for something that 99.9489% of people either don't have, or even if they do, they're not even contagious anymore. Well, let's do one last in the by the numbers category. By the numbers for 1,000, Alex. The answer is, this is the chances of surviving COVID-19 in Kentucky. So this is, what is my chance of actually, this thing's going on, I live in Kentucky, that I'm going to make it? Well, as of October the 1st, there have been 1,174 deaths supposedly of this virus. We have 4.5 million people in Kentucky, which means Kentuckian survival rate is 99.98%. That is incredibly encouraging. It means that all of this fear is exactly just that. It's fear over something that you have a 99.98% chance of surviving, even if you add all the deaths up together, all at the same time. Well, let's go on to our next to last category. This is, here comes the judge. And the answer is, this is the Amendment 2 proposal on Kentucky ballots November of 2020. That's the answer. The question is, what are they planning to increase the office terms of district judges from 4 years to 8 years? Yes, you heard correctly. They want to put on the ballot, it is already on the ballot, Amendment 2 would change the terms for district judges from 4 years to 8 years. This would make the judicial branch far less answerable to the people. It doubles the length of time they are there. The judicial branch is already the least answerable branch of government to the people. It's the one with the least oversight. You don't know if most judges, if they're conservative, if they're liberal, if they're Republican, if they're Democrat. It's a nonpartisan position. And now even if you get a bad one, they would want to switch that to having them for 8 years. This is a horrible amendment, and yet that is what Amendment 2 is. This would amend the Kentucky Constitution to switch the judges' terms from 4 years to 8 years. Both of the amendments to the Kentucky Constitution this year are measures I hope you will vote against. Vote against Amendment 1, vote against Amendment 2. If you got questions about Amendment 1, I talked about that in last week's Patriot Point, the most dangerous thing on the ballot in 2020 here in Kentucky, and we'll probably talk about that more in the future. Well, our final category is pronoun problem. So for $2,000, Alex, I would like to take pronoun problem. The answer is, this is how Andy Beshear refers to Almighty God. And to get the correct thing, let's actually watch the governor give the answer to this from his own mouth.
If we sincerely believe that we have a true duty to one another and to our God to build the world that I think he or she requires of us. Riley?
There you have it. In a press conference this past week, Governor Andy Beshear says God is he or she. Personally, I am highly offended as a Christian that Andy Beshear would dare to take the dear Almighty Lord, which every single time in the Bible is referred to in the masculine, and then say all of a sudden, hey, gender neutral. We have some gender confusion here on God because we don't know if God is a he or a she. A big, major offensive statement made by Governor Beshear as he just continues to push this liberal philosophy and agenda, calling God a he or a she. So there you have it, Kentucky in Jeopardy. And even though we had a lot of fun this evening talking about things in a lighthearted kind of way, some very serious things, and I hope for you some eye-opening things, saying I did not realize this. The chances of catching this disease, this virus, are incredibly low. The chances of surviving it, if you do catch it, are incredibly high. So this year, I hope that you won't live in fear. Freedom over fear. Facts over fear. Faith over fear. And I hope you'll go out and vote, because we saw, again, a lot of the problems that happened with this mail-in disaster in the primary. Make sure you go vote. Vote in person so that you will make sure that your vote counts. And if you're from Florida, go vote 2 or 3 times, because that's what they do down in Florida. Well, I hope this has been informative for you, inspiring, and that you'll share this information with somebody else. Until next week, I'm Lee Watts for Patriot Point. Stand strong and breathe free.